motion to amend policy 9111, paragraph I2, to allow the option of reimbursement for a member.
Request of other members.
Request of the board.
Make a motion for that.
Moved by Mr. Dow. Second by Mr. LaPierre. Any further discussion on that motion?
I don't agree with the motion, against it. There are volunteers in this school who don't get paid, and are asked to pay $75 just like a board member.
Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lima?
No.
Mr. Dorico?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. LaPierre?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I have a motion to approve policy 9111 for second reading as revised. Moved by Mr. LaPierre,
Second.
second by Mr. Dow. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lima?
No.
Mr. Dorico?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. LaPierre?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan? Motion carries.
I recommend the Board of Education approve payment of bills in the amount of $1,501,563.49.
Discussion. Any other question here?
What is, BMW, something, what was that? Page.
I actually did just look through those,
On
and
page
that one I would
3.
have to, I could get back to you on that. It's on page 3. I actually just went through all of them. Yeah, I didn't see that one. Most of these are for contracted services for students
I
getting
just never heard the name.
Yeah, I reviewed them, and most, like I said, most of these, that say contracted service are for out-of-district placements, or they are students on homebound instruction. But we have, there's all kinds of consultants, because I went through these right before I came over, I wanted to be familiar with them and review all of those.
You're obligated to pay the bill this month?
I thought of it. Be nice if they got their money, but.
Well, I don't want to hold it, unless if it's a contracted service, that there's a partial payment related to a contract that exists on the books, that's one thing. If this is something that was just extended, yeah, I want to hold it.
What's the amount?
It's $1,200.
I don't know, I've never seen it before.
So we want to amend approved bills minus that.
Right.
We need a second on that?
Second.
We have a second. Diane?
Okay, another question on your package, these are just printers that have been replaced?
Yeah, there's a lot of printers that were replaced and then the computers. Some of those bills are back from a month ago.
Any other discussion? So we're taking a motion to approve the bill minus BMW for $1,200.
Correct.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Dorico?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
Yes.
Mr. LaPierre?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Community relations, Mr. Rico, no report. And for negotiations, one thing I'll report is that we are still waiting for a mediation date. Tentatively, the last date everybody agreed they could make was February 22nd. Russ Weiss is double checking, looks like the mediator may not be now available that night, so stand by, we're still waiting for the date. That's all for committee reports. bills, we did that. Okay, old business. What do you have in your old business?
Lisa, I just have a question pertaining to the fingerprinting process. How will that be handled for newly elected board members?
I think they have 30 days after their election to get these.
Okay, thank you.
Any other old business? One comment on our student good standing policy. It's in the senior newsletter every month. Do we have any kind of feel for? Do we have any students right now? We're pretty much coming up on the halfway point. That may be in trouble for like through the graduation activities and things. Do you feel for anybody who might be skirting that line?
Is there something you want me to report on?
Yeah, if you can check, I just want to get a feel, because it's like halfway point. Students are responsible for keeping track of their good standing.
Right.
Typically what happens when they find out they're in trouble late in the year, we hear about it from parents. So I just like to get a feel for if there are any students that are out there at risk.
I'm sure there are. I'll never
At least
report.
get a heads
I'll
up.
give you some percentage.
Any other old business? New business?
Yes, Jesse, before we go into the school board change of date, I just wanted to, just for the record, let the board and the public know, because I know that there's some items in the newspaper about my eligibility or lack thereof. I know that newspapers are normally perfectly truthful with what they put out there, but just for the record, I never heard from the state that I was ineligible at any time to be on the board. I had applied 3 times to have the background check done. The 3rd time was successful. So, as far as I was concerned, I was never off the board. But from my understanding, the superintendent and the business administrator did receive correspondence from the Department of Education contrary to that, but I never got a single letter from the Department of Education. We heard today officially that that was rescinded, so it was a rescission, that's good enough. They pulled it back when, as far as I'm concerned, the difference has been out there. So just wanted to clear the record and move forward with that, and I'm glad I'm back from not being gone.
You're glad you're not gone until you're back?
That's right.
Other new business?
Are we gonna have a report from the school year? That's the way I heard from the superintendent, and we all got an email saying that.
Yeah, we'll talk
Are
about
you gonna
it.
report, Stephen?
We'll go right to that one then. Any other-
All right. What's in front of you for discussion tonight and perhaps action is the possibility of this Board of Education changing the election date from the typical April election to November, consistent with the general election. Senate Bill number 3148 was approved by the governor and signed by the governor last Tuesday, and specifically for regional school districts, the process to change the election date can be done in a number of different ways. First off, it can be done by the adoption of a resolution of each of the constituent district boards of education. So if all 5 constituent Board of Educations approve a resolution to move their date, it impacts this district. So it would automatically occur whether this board took action or not. Secondly, if each of the constituent municipalities adopt a resolution to change the school district election in their municipalities, it also changes the regional. Third, if a combination of the municipalities and/or the school districts in each of the constituent districts adopt a resolution,
In any combination of the 5.
any combination of the 5, could be 2 municipalities and 3 boards or whatever combination, it would also change this date. The 4th way is for a voter petition containing 15% of the number of legally qualified voters who voted in the last preceding presidential election is filed with the Board of Education, it could change the date once that vote was approved. So 15% of the voters of the regional district in the last general presidential election would have to file a petition that would then get voted on at the April election in order to change the date. Last way, which was, at least as it pertains to regional districts, is in accordance with a floor amendment which was proposed by Assemblyman Greenwald, which allows for a regional district to adopt its own resolution to change the election date from April to November. It does not, and it would eliminate the requirement of the constituent districts to vote all 5 in favor of the change. So this Board of Education could independently do it if it wanted to. Each of the 5 constituent school districts could vote. 5 constituent municipalities could vote, or a combination thereof, or if you get a petition signed by 15% of the voters. So it's before you tonight is a consideration of whether or not this board wishes to move independently, move the election date from April to November. If that were to occur, then what happens is, if the vote were to change the date to November, it would stay at the November election for a minimum of 4 years, at which point somebody could either by petition or each of the individual boards could move it back to April. But it is mandatory that it stay in place for a minimum of 4 years, so you can't reverse it for that time frame. The budget process appears to be unchanged. You're still going to have to adopt your budget, move your budget within the time frames as if you were moving forward with an April election. You go through the public advertisement, you go through the public hearing, you go through the same procedure, you send it to the executive county superintendent for approval. That stays in place. Now, if your budget is at or below the 2% cap for tax levy purposes, it does not get voted on in the November election. So what happens is at the November election, 3 purposes are available. 1, you would elect board members. 2, if you were to seek approval to exceed your base budget, that additional appropriation gets presented for a vote. And 3, any other lawful purposes, what the legislation says, meaning if you went out for a bond referendum, that's the 3rd thing that would be available. Now, if the budget is at or below that 2% cap and gets approved by the county executive superintendent, it gets certified to the county board of taxation, then gets certified to the 5 municipalities and becomes final as of July 1. So you would be operating under that capped budget for your, in this particular case, 2012 and 2013. If you ask the voters in the November election to exceed that for an additional appropriation, you act under the temporary capped budget until the vote is approved. So for the period July 1 through the date of the election, you're going to be acting as if that additional appropriation were not approved. If it is approved, then it moves forward and you spend the money after the date of the election. If it's not approved, that temporary budget then becomes final. Board members. Board members who are up for election in April of this year, if the board decides to move or the constituent districts adopt a resolution to move your date to November, they carry over to January. The first week in January is when you reorganize. So everybody, if it's adopted to move to November, everybody that's up for election this April just simply carries over to November, actually to January, because that's when the reorganization is. I don't know who's up for election amongst this board, but anybody that will be running in April would now run in November.
That would happen for the next 4 years.
Yeah, what happens is, and you have a reapportionment issue, because Lumberton is adding a seat. One of these 2 guys moves off at some point, but they extend for that additional 8 months, 7 months until 8 months until January.
What do we know has happened? Do we know what's happened?
I can speak to that.
Northern Burlington,
Our districts.
so your district's, I don't know.
I can speak to my district, East Hampton, they had a town council, school board meeting, and they both agreed to pass it, so they passed the resolution.
No, Holly agreed with it
Yeah.
too. Was.
I can tell you that all the superintendents of all the 70 schools were optimistic that, I think it's on number 2 agenda. Right, and I can tell you that I was at a roundtable last Friday of all the regionals in southern New Jersey. Every one of them had either passed it or was in the process of passing it. They canvassed it and it was going to pass. Mrs. Nicolosi, the Burlington County, Camden County Superintendent, sent out an email to all superintendents in her region, which is obviously enormous, asking where their boards were meeting and to reply all. And I can only tell you that without exception, everyone has acted on it in the affirmative and moved to November, which was almost breathtaking to be for obviously.
Now, Holly, we have, East Hampton have already moved. Who else?
Lumberton is on the
It's on
agenda for
the agenda for this Thursday.
And I spoke to, Donna Ryan from West Hampton, and she called and was calling West Hampton Board of Ed, and if they were, I don't think they're meeting again until the 23rd of February, she's gonna look to put it on the township agenda to have it moved in West Hampton. So the only person I haven't talked to, which, Dr. Jelly has spoke to, is Hayesville. So that's the only questionable one at this point. I think that.
One of the unanswered questions that Senator Norcross's office is supposed to be supplying information on is a drop dead date for adopting resolutions. The statute's silent as to when it needs to be done for the purposes of any Board of Education attempting to do it for the 2012 April election. So there's really been no guidance as to what the last possible date to adopt a resolution would be, whether it's by a municipality or a school district. And the thought process is that most of the districts are looking to do it sooner rather than later, if indeed they're considering it. I would suspect that one of the drop dead dates would be having to do it before petitions are filed for candidates. So that, I believe, is February 27th this year. So your timeline is probably sometime short of that, but I don't have an answer for that. I'm expecting a call. They were meeting at the Department of Education on Friday, but there's been no resolution of that yet. So while there may be time to further consider this, either at this board or other boards or the townships, there's no indication yet what the last date to adopt it would be to be effective at April of this year.
Well, Steve, if 4 or 5 of the district vote yes to move it to November, it sounds like this board is compelled to go along with that for consistency's sake, for logistical sake, and so on.
I think if all 5 say yes, we don't have an option. We don't get a
If all
second.
5 say yes and no, but
We don't get a
4 out
second.
of 5 say yes, then it's really back to you whether you decide to do it.
Right.
Well, because it wouldn't be mandated.
What we know is plurality.
No, the governing body, of course.
I think the municipality is going to decide, okay, whether it be the local school district or the governing body.
Well, it sounds like if one does it before the other, they're gonna, if one does it before the other, they're gonna preempt that second body.
Who cares?
being able to do that.
That's the way they want it, that's fine. But I think we're the last ones, because we are an umbrella on top of the spokes, okay? And they should be making individual decisions.
Right. That's my point. If 4 or 5, let's say all 5 say yes, what do we,